Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday, June 17th, 2021 meeting of the Public Art Commission. We're going to start off with roll call. Commissioner Waltuck.
Present.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Gordon.
Present.
And Commissioner Miyagi.
Here.
And Chair Taylor present. Great. And our next item on the agenda is any agenda changes, requests, or deletions?
There are none at this time.
Great. And any oral communications? So anybody from the members, from the public, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I don't see any attendees in presence.
Okay, we can move along. Next, we have the approval of minutes from the meeting of May 20th, 2021. Can I get any changes or any comments about it? Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved, Commissioner
Great.
Miyagi.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Wonderful, and then we have to do our roll call. So Commissioner Gordon, or sorry, Vice Chair Gordon, it's going to take me a moment.
Yes, I approve of the May 20 meeting minutes.
Wonderful. Commissioner Miyagi?
Aye.
Great. And Commissioner Waltuck?
I approve.
Great. And Chair Nia Taylor present. Okay, wonderful. We'll go, or I should say, sorry, not, I approve. I said present, I approve. Next, we have our staff comments.
Wonderful, thank you. So while Nadia is pulling up some lovely eye candy for us, so we'll start with that. We'll start with the micro grants. If you go to the Palo Alto Public Art Programs homepage, there is a link there that will show you the map to all of the current and past micro grant projects. Here are a couple that have been installed since the last time we met. So we have a project here in Rinconada Park, you can see on the left, and a nice interactive project that went in last weekend at Pardee Park, very playful on the right. And over the weekend, there was a group of Harker Art Club students who painted this K-rail, which is on University Avenue. You can see it's across from the Hotel President. So be sure to stop by and see that when you have a chance. And then we've had a number of Bubbles pop-up performances. I believe from social media, she was on the Dish earlier this week. I came across one of her performances and she had a live musician performing with her at the California Avenue Fountain two weekends ago. So those are popping up throughout the city. And then we have a project on the right, and it's a little hard to see in the photograph, but they're all hand painted butterfly sculptures that have been installed and throughout this greenery and go to the corner of the Union Bank on University with the butterflies. And then we just wanted to give you a brief update. I know the last time in staff comments, we did disclose the 4 artists who were moving forward with creating temporary murals for the construction fence at the Public Safety Building. Out of 100 applicants, the panel was able to select 8. So the first 4 are working on their designs now. Unfortunately, Elizabeth Lada had to drop out. So Debbie Kaufman was the next artist up, and she has jumped in and rolled up her sleeves. So they are all working on their designs currently. They've all done site visits and consulted with staff and started with their sketch concepts. They should have artworks to us in early July, and then we'll get through fabrication and install in mid-August. So stay tuned for more details on that. And then the final item I just wanted to let the commission know about is the King Artist Residency. Artist Call is about ready to launch. We're hopeful we can launch it tomorrow, if not Monday, but it would be great to do it tomorrow in time for Juneteenth. We're just putting the finishing touches on it, having all the right people look at it, and trying to put together our selection panel. So we're really excited about the way it has shaped up, and we're looking forward to all of you helping us get the word out and blast the call out to various artists and creatives in your networks. And that's it for staff comments tonight.
Thanks, Elise. Next, we have our first action item, which is the Highway 101 Bike Bridge artwork.
So we have some visuals for you. There's a lot of ground to cover because there's some history. I want to make sure we bring everyone along, or anyone who may want to watch it in the future along, so they have the history of the project. Nadia, I'm not sure where you got this image, but it's a fantastic image of the center spans being installed last weekend. So those are indeed in place. And I also wanted to mention that this evening, we are joined by Joe Sachs, who's the project manager for the project. So he can help address any detailed questions there might be, because he is far more equipped to field those questions than I am. So just to orient you on the bike and pedestrian bridge, the upper right section is overlooking the Baylands, and that very crudely drawn red circle that I put on there earlier today is roughly where the overlook is, which is where the artwork will be concentrated. And so I just wanted to take a step back to give everyone the history, because this project really began at the end of 2016. We were able to utilize our pre-qualified pool and go through an artist selection in late 2016, early 2017. Mary Lucking was approved as the project artist in February. She began her design development immediately. And in August 2017, she came to the commission, and we'll show you an image in a moment, with her conceptual design. And it was 3 sculptural seating elements and an artist designed railing. But at the time, we knew that the funding that had originally been encumbered would not be enough to fabricate the railing, and that we would return to the commission once we knew what the cost would be. So in April 2018, we returned to the commission to request additional funds to fund the railing element. A lot has happened since that time. So September 2020, the sculptural seating elements have been fabricated. They're stored in Arizona as the bridge construction was delayed. Needless to say, with COVID and everything else that has happened, costs have escalated, materials have escalated. It's been a challenging time, and her fabricator could no longer commit to the 10-week timeframe. So she began looking for other fabricators, and the costs had gone up significantly. So she began looking for various options. She can't begin fabricating those posts or the panels until the vertical posts are installed on the bridge. And I'll walk you through the rationale behind that in just a moment when we're looking at the images. The bridge project, Public Works is trying to have the bridge open to the public in late August. So it's a very tight time frame. The artists and the fabricators need 10 weeks from the time the measurements are taken to be able to fabricate and deliver the panels. And if we could go to the next slide, I just want to give you all a refresher on what the images are, what was approved, and sort of where we are now. So on the left, you can see the original conceptual proposal approved by the commission in 2017. On the right is a small drawing of what that small overlook area is. And you can see the artist railing is the darker railing there around the 3 sculptural elements. So if you'll go to the next one. So here you can see actual photographs of the aluminum seating elements there. And you can see the braces that are necessary for supporting the panels. Now, in this overlook area, there are 7 different braces that are 5 different models. And because the slope and the curve of the overlook area of the bridge, the artist must wait until those vertical braces are installed by the general contractor in order to get a precise LiDAR scan. Those measurements will kick off that 10-week fabrication process. And each panel will have to be custom made and will be slightly different in size because there are so many variations to how those posts will be installed given the slope and the curvature of that area. So the posts are scheduled for installation very soon, by the end of this month. And due to overall project delays in the bridge project, the costs have escalated significantly, as have the cost for shipping those elements out to the job site. So the new fabricator that she was able to find is local and could potentially deliver them faster, but they were significantly more expensive. And as outlined in the staff report, staff is requesting the additional $43,400 to add to her contract for all the potential cost overruns. So it would be an overall contract not to exceed $150,400. Now, I think it's important to highlight the fact that that dollar amount is for the most expensive possible option, the most expensive shipping, the maximum number of hours the engineer might need to be involved, the maximum number of hours might be required for redesign. And if you notice in this image, it differs slightly than the previous image because there's a higher crossbar support, which this new fabricator, which their engineer deemed necessary. And so that required a little bit of extra finagling. I would like to update the commission that since the time that this was drafted, Mary Lucking was able to get a much more promising estimate. It's not apples to apples because it doesn't include shipping and everything, but we are working off 3 different variable estimates with a spread of about $20,000. So the amount that we're requesting this evening is the highest possible amount, just to make sure that we aren't caught in a situation where we're, say, $4,000 short and would have to come back to the commission and have further delays to the project. Joe, is there anything else you would like to jump in and share with the commission? Is there anything I left out?
I don't think so. I think you've covered it pretty thoroughly. You know, just to reiterate, not only the passage of time that has occurred because of the construction delays and because of the pandemic, but the price of materials has just risen dramatically and is increasing day to day. Many of you have probably seen in the newspaper or heard in the media, for example, the price of dimensional lumber and plywood has increased up to 5 times in the last year and a half. Just as an example, and stainless steel is similarly increasing in price. And so, you know, it's a complicated explanation for why that's happening, but that is the reality. That's a large factor as well in the reasons for the cost increase in materials and fabrication, and in shipping as well. The cost of fuel and construction industry has been booming, so the demand for shipping providers and fabricators is way up as well. I'm happy to answer any specific questions that the commissioners may have.
Great, thanks Elise and thanks Joe. I'll open up the floor to commissioners. Any comments, thoughts, questions?
I have a couple of questions. One, why were the elements stored in Arizona? Is that where the artist lives, or?
Yeah, the artist is in Arizona, and the fabricator who created those sculptural elements is also in Arizona. And the general contractor and public works don't want those to be delivered until they're nearly ready to be installed. And so they're just waiting there for the go-ahead.
And I have personal experience with wood products. We're trying to replace our fence.
Yeah.
And every time we look, it seems like the cost of wood just goes up and up and up. So, you know, someplace you just got to draw the line in the sand and purchase this stuff. But we're hoping the prices will go down here.
Right.
In the future. So I'm glad that now this is finally getting done. But the pandemic has really just thrown a lot of things out of whack, and especially with the cost of this. So this contract, will it have to go to city council because now the total contract is over a certain amount, or is it just an addendum to the current contract?
That's an excellent question. Thank you. So the previous contracts did go to council for approval because they're over the $80,000 threshold. Because of the time sensitivity and the fact that this may delay the opening of the bridge, they are making an exception so that we may move forward with this because council is on break. And then it will come back to them when they resume as a report after the fact.
All right. Good. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Any others? Lauren?
This one is for you, Elise or Nadia, about the additional funds. You said they are coming from art and public places. Line item or account 86017. Is that correct?
Yes. So this funding would come from the pooled percent for art funds, right, with the art and public places CIP.
Okay, and the actual cost of the original project came from the Muni CIP budget, right?
Right. So the bridge project has contributed thus far in previous years, $143,600 to the percent for art CIP.
Okay.
But as you may recall, the commission has the authority to pool those funds as needed for various projects. And there are other funds that were derived from bike and pedestrian plan funds that were previously given to public art.
Just trying to keep the buckets, you know, where the money's coming from.
I appreciate that. That's always best practice.
So thank you. And then this is for you, Joe. So we have 7 braces on that seating area where the artist is working, right? That will require different measurements done by the LiDAR scan. These braces, you said there are 5 different models that of these 7, there are 5 different models of these braces. Is that true throughout the bridge, or is every other post kind of uniform?
So, okay, so just to clarify, by braces, we're talking about the posts, right? Just for so everyone understands, right? Those are horizontal posts that the railing panel is attached to on either side. And there are other models as well for the rest of the bridge. For example, when you have an inside corner or an outside corner, those are different models of posts. And the complexity in measurements can best be described by, so those posts or braces will be installed on a bed of mortar. There are threaded rods sticking up out of the concrete deck of the bridge, and the post base plates will go over those threaded rods with mortar between the deck of the bridge and the base plate in order to make it plumb or straight up and down.
Right.
But in reality, when the fabricator comes to take those measurements, we expect that the posts won't be perfectly plumb, right? So that's why they have to wait until they're installed in order to take measurements. And in addition to whether the posts are plumb or maybe a little off in one way or the other, the bridge deck is sloped. So each panel will be essentially like a parallelogram. Ideally, if the posts were truly plumb, then you would have straight up and down on the left and right. But on the bottom, there will be a slope, and each one will be potentially different. You know, it'll be a unique, each one is a unique panel designed to fit only in that space.
Okay.
So that's why, you know, we tried our best to get around that somehow, but there's really just no way. If one of the posts is a 1/2 inch out of plumb and you make the panels to fit the ideal situation, you bring them out there and they just won't fit.
They won't fit.
And there's no real way to adjust that in the field to make it fit. You know, one would have to be shorter and one would have to be longer and at a different angle. So
Okay.
that's why we're having to wait until they're in before the clock can begin to tick on the fabrication.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I just find that railing to be really interesting, and I'm hoping that we can push this through to install that. We've been with this project for over 4 years, and so we want to do what's right and keep it safe too. I think safety is our biggest concern, right? So
yeah, the panels are fairly complex to make. There's a fair amount of welding of really heavy gauge stainless steel material, and that's why finding the right fabricator is kind of tricky for the artist as well. But she's identified a couple now that can do it in the 10-week time frame, and it's just a matter of when those posts are in for when she can begin.
great, thank you.
Sure.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm curious about, I was also curious about the posts and the horizontal braces. Are the posts part of the bridge design, and has the artist been involved in the design of the post, or is she meant mainly to work around that engineering requirement of how that post is going to be? And the same question for the horizontal braces.
Right. So the posts are essentially they are the same posts as are elsewhere on the bridge. The artist and her engineer have met with the designer of the bridge, but you know, there's only so much modification that they could accommodate on the posts themselves. So there will be some modification after the measurements are taken to make sure that the angle attachments on either side where the railing panels attached to the posts will have to be made. And that will be some additional cost because the artist structural engineer will have to look at the as-built conditions and then make sure that the panels are designed to fit those posts as they exist. So that's, you know, that's a smaller part of the additional cost as well.
My question is a little bit focused on the aesthetics and making sure that the artist is able to maintain the integrity of their design, and that it looks very unified, and that it doesn't seem really broken up by the posts. I totally understand the necessity of structural elements. I just want to make sure that they can be integrated into her design in a way that it works.
Yes, so I'm happy to field that one. So the artists, when they're selected, we bring them in rather early in the process so that they are able to join the design team. So the artist was at the table with the bridge designer and Public Works and everyone to determine where's the artwork going to fit the best, what can we do, what can't we do. So she's been part of the conversation ever since we determined that overlook was the best area.
Thank you. And thank you for indulging me. I know I'm totally new to this process.
No, we welcome the questions. That's great. Thank you.
No problem.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any before I chime in? Great, thank you, Joe. We're excited. A long time coming, as we've all said. I just have one quick question. I'm giving the fabricator and everybody else that supports the fabricator a lot of confidence that the measurements will be correct and everything will go in as planned, but things do happen. So will the fabricator be on hand and or like a welder in case any fixes need to be made on the spot, or will it have to be sent back to the fabricator? Can you talk just a little bit about that? And then I guess weather too. Will weather be affecting any of these?
I don't think weather will have, you know, it would be nice if it rained for all of us, but I don't anticipate that happening this summer. So I don't think so. Written into the agreement for the bid for the general contractor was that the general contractor would install the panels. And the reason for that was that it became more and more complicated if we had the artist and her contractor, which would be the fabricator, come on site and do the installation. So it was much more streamlined to have the general contractor actually bolt the panels to the posts. But as part of the contract with her fabricator, the artist fabricator will come to the site and take those precise measurements to ensure that the panels are created precisely to fit in those spaces. And once those posts are in, nothing should change, you know, so, you know, of course there could be some mistake, I guess is what you're asking about. If the fabricator were to make a mistake, that would be the fabricator's responsibility, I believe, you know, via the artist. That would be something that the artist would have to insist that her fabricator fix, I believe. And the fabricator won't be there to do the installation, but the artist and public art staff will be on site to supervise the installation.
Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Okay, well, thank you, Joe. We're all excited. And we look forward to the opening. Can all be on the bridge. So
it's been a long
without
time.
masks, hopefully.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And we will do our lovely vote. Can I get an approval for an additional funding in the amount of up to $43,400 for the Highway 101 Bike and Pedestrian Bridge?
So moved.
Wonderful. Can I get a second?
I second.
Thank you. And we will do our lovely roll call. I'll start with Vice Chair Gordon.
Aye.
Commissioner Waltuck. I think, Lisa, you do have to.
Sorry, yes, aye.
Okay. And Commissioner Miyagi.
Aye.
And Chair Taylor, aye. Okay. Thank you all. Next, we are moving on. And actually, you know, at least I did not ask for public comments, but because we didn't have anybody, but did we have anybody join us? No. Okay, I'm safe. Great. Okay, we'll move on next to our non-action item, which is Code Art 2.
Thank you all. I'm going to leave the meeting now.
Thanks,
Thank you
Joe.
for joining us, Joe. Thanks,
Thank you.
Joe.
So shifting gears a little bit, looking forward to Code Art 2. I know several of you were with the commission in 2017 when we did the first Code Art. It was a lot of fun. We gathered a lot of really great feedback to make this version even better and even bigger and bolder. So we are looking at October 7th, 8th, and 9th, which is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And since it's been so long since we watched the commission through who the anchor artist is and all the various artist interventions, we wanted to walk you through those, give you a brief update because October is going to be right around the corner. And also, you know, ask for some assistance from the commission as we move forward. There are some things that we're really going to need the commissioner's help with in pulling this off. So, so let's get to the eye candy first. So this first project is going to take place on Lytton Plaza. This is by Marpy Studios, and it's an interactive new media artwork called Paleo Alto, and it was based on these primordial aquatic forms when Palo Alto was underwater. And the creatures are responsive to people coming into close proximity with the screens. Additionally, the back side of it, there will be an interactive area where visitors can come and virtually take different parts to create a creature that will then appear on the other side, on the other environment. So the piece is evolving, much like the creatures in the artwork. And you see the green line there between the trees. It's going to be parallel with the fountain. So there's space between the fountain and the artwork for people to interact with it. And it's going to kind of wind around those two trees, incorporating the more organic trees with the LED displays. So next is a project called Hydralla by Daniel Tran and Nick Sowers. So some of you may have seen Daniel Tran's Art Lift sculptures in Mitchell Park, much smaller version. So this is going to be much larger, suspended between the trees, and have a sound element that will be responsive to a visitor's proximity to various parts of the sculpture. So that is in development. They do have a model built, and so, you know, heavy prototyping is underway. And we're really excited about this one. So stay tuned for more. We're working on a way to get some lighting integrated. The next one we wanted to highlight for you is Coded Architecture by Amor Munoz. She's a Mexican artist who is going to create a code that will either expand or change slightly over the course of the 3 days that would be installed with wheat paste on the alley between Bell's Books and Mac's Smoke Shop. Additionally, there would be some LED lighting strips along the base, so it has more of a night presence and would glow, so that people will still be able to experience the artwork and hopefully decode the messages hidden therein. The next project is The Color Currents by artist Corey Barr. So this would be installed in Lane 20, which I don't know if you recall during 2017, we really liked the idea of utilizing the space for code art, but it was still under construction. So now it is completed, and we will have a pop-up screen halfway down that tunnel that people can go in, and the artwork will respond to visitors' movements. And there may be some ambient music to it. So that's Corey Barr's project. And we're working through all the logistics with transportation now, closures and all that kind of fun stuff. The next project, Luminous Growth by Liz Hickok, Jamie Baines, and Phil Spittler. So you may recall that Liz Hickok and Phil Spittler partnered for the interactive mural on California Avenue with the poppies that has the augmented reality piece. This project, which actually had been accepted before they did that mural piece, will have an interactive element to it where the sculpture, the actual sculpture will be on site, and people can move the camera throughout the sculptural environment and watch it on a projection on the side of the AT&T building there. So we're really excited about seeing how that unfolds. And do we have another slide? Yeah. So Ben Plateau, he is the one artist who is a returning artist from 2017. And he and his team are creating this interactive game-based installation that will have some lighting within it. So the blocks or the pieces, I believe, will glow internally, but it's a way for people on either side of the wall to be able to interact with one another and uncover messages and or images. So we were thinking that with the prolonged street closures, we might be able to place it in the closed section of Ramona, but now that it looks like that might not be closed, we are looking at this Ramona Street entrance to Centennial Way, where the sidewalk is nice and broad, that can be a great location for the project. And then this is a project, Cosmic Cannon by Jeffrey Yip. This will have sound and lights. Originally, it was going to be a touch button. The last time we spoke with him, we had moved away from touch, that perhaps it just sensed somebody's close proximity to it. But it would affect the lighting and the sound depending on the number of people who are interacting with the sculpture at the same time. So this was another one that we were looking at putting in University Avenue, in an area where there's a lot of space between restaurants, and it was fairly quiet. There it is, there's the slide. But if University is going to be open to traffic, then now we're looking at this potential sidewalk space adjacent to the Wells Fargo, and it's also nice and close to Avenidas as an entry point to engage some of the Avenidas folks as well. And that's it for that. So it's going to take a lot to pull this off. We're in the thick of, you know, logistics and permitting, and where we're going to pull electrical, and getting sign off from transportation and fire and planning and everyone else. But when it comes close to the event itself, we're going to need a lot of help in, say, volunteer recruitment. You know, it takes a lot of volunteers who are going to help direct people, give them information, spell the artists when they need to use the bathroom, who can speak to the artwork, or you know, help show people how to use the QR code on their phones, things like that, so that the artists aren't just having to do everything the whole time for 3 nights. We'll need help giving some public tours to the public, because I think we will be able to do that. So having people walk through and lead groups through the various installations, and be able to talk to them about what kind of work the public art program and the commission supports. Thinking through partnerships. So one of the ideas that we had discussed early on in this process was, is there a way to partner with the downtown businesses to have special items? So perhaps there's a special code art chocolate you can get at one vendor, or a special code art manicure you can get somewhere else, or a drink somewhere. So that's going to take a lot of time and bandwidth to put together, and could be something that perhaps we could get help from a commissioner to do. We don't have specific details on that, or we're not quite ready to spring into action yet, but I just wanted to open it up to have some discussion, field any questions you all might have about code art. And it might make sense if we pick up this discussion at the retreat, if we do that in more of an August timeframe. So open for questions.
Great. Any questions, comments?
Question.
Yeah, Lisa.
I love the idea of getting the participation from the community in terms of code art themed things. Was that a developed logo that I saw at the beginning of the presentation for code art? So you have artwork that we could share with the community to put on, like you said, chocolate bars, or, you know, whatever products or services would go along with it.
Yes, we do have a logo developed,
okay.
Yes. And we're working on all the print collateral for promotion now.
Okay, okay. And if you were to do a program that would, you know, have the community participate, would there be some sort of site where they could pull any of that marketing type material to use?
Yes, so we would probably keep the list of potential, like, vendors or experiences on our code art webpage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah.
We can't keep up with the print if people decide they want to participate last minute. Sorry, we printed the card, you know, like,
right.
It's got to be online and very fluid.
Yeah.
A couple of questions, Elise. Remind me of the time. It was going to be in the evening this year, this time, right? Like 4 o'clock on or something like that?
Yes, thank you for asking. I neglected to say that earlier. It's going to be, we're looking at the hours of 5 to 10 p.m. So when the sun starts to set, because a lot of these are light experiences and projections, The last time we did code art, we had some projects that were more daytime experience and some that were more nighttime. And the feedback we got was that the public was confused. They would go to see one, they thought they were all open till 7 p.m., but that one wasn't. Anyway, so we need to keep uniform hours. So that's the direction we went, that it was more of an evening experience.
All right, great. And then the help that you need, like contacting businesses, would that have to be done in person, or can we do that by phone or email? Because I'm willing to do anything that you need. But since I don't actually live in Palo Alto, contacting businesses could be a bit of a undertaking if I actually have to go to Palo Alto. I'm willing to do that, but do we maybe make an initial phone call contact and then follow that up in person to do something like that?
So that's a great question. I've had some initial conversations with Charlie at the Chamber. He's very supportive of this and helping us get the word out. But it will take quite a bit of follow-up, which I suspect could probably be done via email or phone call. I think the in-person is always a nice touch when it's available, but perhaps if it's an ad hoc committee of 2 people, you could tag team with somebody who's local who can darken a doorway, and someone else can, go after the folks who are more responsive to phone calls and email.
Okay, and then funding. What avenues of funding are there? I know last time you got Americans for the Arts, or excuse, yeah, it was American for the Arts that funded it. But what kind of funding are we going to have to, like, I think last time we got some sponsorships, like Lauren, I believe, got a sponsorship. Is that something else that we're looking at as well?
We had some initial conversations with House, who did give us some sponsorship funding last time. They passed this time around, and now that so much time has passed, perhaps it's worth another ask. The funding thus far for the contracts that are under existence were primarily from the Percent for Art funding and from the private development funding. So the commission approved the allocation of, I believe it was $36,000 for the urban intervention contracts from the Percent for Art for private development that was derived from downtown development.
Great, thank you.
But if anyone can scare up a sponsorship, that would be wonderful.
Put me on your list for anything you need done.
Elise, do you have like a sheet that has like an information that you would give to potential?
Yes, we do have a 1-page informational sheet and overall. Okay. And then we do have something that's that gives a little more detail about the specific installations. So depending on who you're approaching and the proximity to a specific installation, we could tailor that information, but we can make that available to the commissioner, sure.
Okay. Lauren, did you have a question or a comment, or? No?
I'm just brainstorming right now. I think it will be fun to think this through and come up with a strategy at our offsite, because I think we're not going to want to duplicate asks, and we're going to want to kind of have a plan, and we'll want to know what toolkit we have. I think that Lisa was right to ask, is that the logo for Code Art? And if so, could certain vendors use that logo? And are we going to put signage up around town? I'm sure that we will, but I think it's going to require a bit of strategizing on everybody's part. And I'd like to meet with the Chamber of Commerce too. I think that would be really interesting to see what ideas they come up with, because they have their finger on the pulse of Palo Alto businesses. So.
What about following up on that, what about the Downtown Association? Contact them?
So my understanding is that they have not been meeting as regularly since COVID, that with all the changes, they're all very busy, and it's been more the chamber or meeting with the city. But I'm certainly in touch with Brad Ahikian, who is heading up that group right now. I'm happy to make an introduction as well.
And kind of following up what Lauren was saying about the pandemic, maybe we wait to see how things kind of settle out as we kind of get back to whatever our normal is going to be, and see how businesses and that react to that. I know there's some, like restaurants especially, having trouble hiring people to work. So, you know, and instead of asking right now, maybe we wait a month or two to see how things settle down and see how our things are going before we actually do the ask, and it might be easier.
I was gonna add to your point that I was thinking a lot about just the guidelines and, you know, flow and how many people can be at each project at a time. And so I think there's a lot of things we're just gonna have to be patient a little bit and go with the flow, which is exciting. You know, of course, it's obviously nerve-wracking, but I do though have a question about, well, two actually questions. One, is there any way that we can ask the artists if they have any friends or family who would like to be with them? Because sometimes I find it's nice if you have somebody who you're kind of close to who could help talk about what you do. So that would be one potential suggestion to get more hands on the ground help. The second question I had, there are quite a, we talked about this briefly, or I think you mentioned this, Elise, is that a lot of the pieces are light shows and light experiences, which I think is really cool. But some of them, I think, have screens that would turn off at a certain point. Is that, and people can't touch them, or in terms of like security? And I think just the fact that it's lighter out, or it could be a little lighter out, you know, could affect, especially if things are good, people will be out doing things. So I was curious what we're gonna do about that.
About security for the projects?
Security, and also just some of the pieces, are they gonna just be turned off? Like there's a couple of pieces, and I'm blanking on the name of the piece, but like the Palio Alto, it just will shut off at a certain point, or can people still interact with it? I guess that's, and there's a couple other pieces that look like people could still, like, if it has to be turned off for people not to interact with it. So I think that, yes. I hope that makes sense.
So the festival hours are from 5 to 10. We're working out the details of which projects would get loaded onto the truck for overnight storage, which ones would have a security guard in place with ropes around it. So we're working through all those logistics now. Perfect.
They're very enticing. I'm excited. So I think we should get the first dibs on getting to try them. So no, that's exciting. Yeah, and I love the idea of getting various community members and also various stores and things like that involved. I think it could be just a nice gathering. And so I'm excited about that. So, and it's a non-action item, so I don't think we need any public comments. Okay, great. Lauren, did you have something else you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to talk a little bit about the retreat and what the timing is on that. So we can get more details about what's needed for Code Art, because it feels like we all do want to contribute to make it successful. So
yeah, perfect. So that's not on our agenda to discuss the meeting, but I'm sure Elise will send out an email for us to discuss.
Well, one way that this could be incorporated is we have announcements and then for your calendar, which is usually where we talk about the schedule for upcoming meetings, and the retreat would certainly fall into that category.
Perfect. So I guess we can move on unless there's any other questions or thoughts. Great, I think we're all excited, just like the bridge. So fantastic. Okay, any announcements? So, okay, do we want to talk about, okay.
Yes, we can talk about the calendar, and if you want to bring up some ideas that were discussed about potentially moving the retreat from September to August.
Nadia, I think you reached out to the commissioners regarding availability for summer meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, previously I reached out to the commissioners in regards with everybody's availability during the regular meetings, and everybody confirmed that everyone is available to meet either virtually or in person if needed.
Well, that's great.
So I'm assuming that if we were there was a discussion about whether we should have 2 meetings, I think in August or September, one which would be our regular meeting, and then one would be our retreat. And is that feasible for everybody as well, or? Okay, perfect.
That's a good idea. And I have an interest in having the retreat in August. I don't know how others feel about that. I actually don't even, I know I'm available for our meeting, but we'd have to discuss future dates on that to see who's available, because we definitely want everyone to attend. And I think if we're putting on Code Art 2 in October, we really need to meet in August to get just these working groups going, volunteer groups going.
And Elise, have you come up with some potential ad hoc groups, or is that something you want us to kind of think about, or we can talk together at our retreat about it?
That's something we would discuss at the retreat, and commissioners could volunteer to be on part of an ad hoc committee. That's not normally something staff would assign.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody think about what you think needs to be done to
Chair Taylor, how do you feel? Would you be available in the month of August as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And if I could just get a brief take the temperature of the room on weekends versus weekdays in August, because that'll really help me shape sending out a doodle poll.
Okay, let me take a look.
The problem that we had trying to meet in August in the past was school. With school starting and kids going back to school and people wanting to get in a last vacation before school started. And I don't know if we have that much of a problem anymore. But I know Elise, your last one will be going off to college and that. So, you know, I think maybe that's something we might want to factor in with that as well.
I'll take a broad survey and we'll see if anything sticks.
Sounds like a plan. Right.
Yeah, I'm available weekends and weekdays, just depends when it comes up. Commissioner Miyagi, do you have a preference? Is it easier for you on the weekends, or Commissioner Waltek?
I'm just looking at my schedule. I do have a weekend that doesn't work. So if I had to choose, I would say weekdays, but it really depends on the specific date. I mean, I could, you know, if it doesn't fall on that weekend, then I'm available anytime. So
we usually meet for about 4 hours, usually, and we have lunch or something, yeah, for breakfast.
And is it, so it's 4 hours over multiple days, or how does the retreat usually work?
One day.
One day, yeah.
One day,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and last time we did it virtually, so, and it worked out just fine, and we took a little break in between, but otherwise, yeah, usually it's 4 hours, and if we're in person, we'd have breakfast and then lunch, well, which is always nice, yeah.
Yeah, for me, August, I have a lot of weddings on weekends. So that's the problem that I run into. But if we can schedule it early enough, I can block off a block of time for that.
And for me, it would be better towards the later part of the month rather than the earlier part of the month.
Chair Taylor, what about you?
I'm pretty available. I will say just put some spaghetti out there and we'll see if it sticks. I will ask though, if we were to meet in person, I don't know if there's any city spaces, or could we meet at somebody's backyard, or do we need to have that physical space? I don't know. That's just something for us to also think about, but I guess at least that's probably in your realm.
Well, you would have to publicly notice it and allow members of the public to attend. Okay. So that's why it's usually held in a city space, because it's a public meeting like any of our commission meetings.
Okay. And because all the public spaces are open now, pretty much, many of them. Anyway, for the city spaces. They're
just getting ready to open up right now. Yeah, they're just starting to open up for rentals and events like that.
Okay. Great.
Cool. So just in terms of getting dates based on this feedback, Elise, will you put together options and then we'll just weigh in?
Yes, so what Nadia and I will put together a doodle poll with a whole bunch of options. Sorry, dog interference. And just check all the ones that you could potentially make. And we'll see, maybe we get synergy around a date and then we can book it.
Great.
Just crossed.
The good news is we know that we're all available to attend that meeting in August. So maybe we can cluster something around that. Yeah. So
unfortunately, I'm not going to be here for that. Kristen O'Kane was going to take the meeting because I'm going to be in New York taking my daughter to college. So,
well, that's pretty important. You know, can you take some photographs of the public art there?
Of course, I plan to. That's the whole. I'm going into the city. Just like my whole agenda is going to see public art.
Where are you going? Did you say?
Well, she's going to be up in Ithaca, but then we're going to go down to Manhattan, and so we've got a big agenda of art.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else have any announcements that they wish to make? I will say just briefly, I attended the Americans for the Arts conference and it was really fun. So I know I don't know if you can go in after the fact and watch some of the videos, but they did put on the website. They did put on the website though information about this year's public art artist, the Perez Prize winner. So if you want to check her out, or at least I don't know if you want to send an email out with the link. She does some really amazing work. So yeah.
Thank you for that reminder. I'll check that out.
And there's also actually, even though we have already chosen our artist for code art, there will be, and at least I don't know if you saw this in the Public Art Network email, there is going to be an interesting discussion about art and technology coming up. It's through the NEA, National Endowments for the Arts. And I think it's the 29th of June, but I'm sure Elise would send out information if anybody's interested. So,
yes.
And I will be attending, and we won't see each other, so nobody will know.
That would be interesting.
Great. So anybody else have any announcements they wish to share?
Well, I did attend the Americans for the Arts along with, I saw Elise there and that. So it was good. There was a lot of good topics discussed.
Good.
I don't know, at the retreat, maybe we can spend a few minutes just sharing any thoughts we had, Ben, if you want. I don't know if you feel, okay, great. Or any handouts.
I would welcome that. Thank you. That would be great. And just a funny thing that I'll share is I did not know about, is it Banksy, the English artist? And someone, but not him or her, is having a show come through San Francisco. And I told my kids about this and they went crazy. They want to go, they have to go. So this is kind of fun. I guess he or she is a street artist. And so it'll be kind of cool. So if anyone wants a link to tickets, I'm sure I can dig that out of my email.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, this was a pretty strong, quick meeting. And I think we're ready to adjourn, unless there's anybody else that has anything to say. Okay.
I'll just say one last comment since you keep giving us the floor. I just want to thank Chair Miyagi for his service over the past couple of years. I really enjoyed working with him. So thank you, Ben, for your leadership, especially through the pandemic. That was not easy. And really, thank you. You did a wonderful job. And as you know, I'm also welcoming Chair Taylor. I'm very excited to work with you too. So thank you both. But just wanted to give a special nod to Ben. Thank you, Ben. So.
Thank you, Lauren. And I'll also say too, welcome again, Lisa. And we're going to be a very strong team. We already are, and we'll continue to be even stronger. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
Guys. Wonderful.
And I'm sorry my family kept bringing me food through the meeting, but I haven't eaten it yet. So.
Fantastic. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Hey, thank you, everybody.